My family is the #1 villainous clan in the capital. My father is the treacherous prime minister who holds sway over the court, and my brother is a domineering bully. To ward off bad luck, my father arranged a marriage for me with a live-in son-in-law, Chu Heng. He is as gentle as jade, elegant and peerless, showing me endless care and tenderness. All the noble ladies in the capital envy me for stumbling upon such a treasure, and I thought I was the happiest woman in the world, even today. As he was drawing my eyebrows, strange golden characters suddenly floated before my eyes. It's easy to paint the skin and bones, but hard to paint the heart. Look at this affectionate appearance. Who would have thought this perfect live-in son-in-law is actually a spy sent by the emperor to the Shen family? 3 years later, it will be he who personally presents the evidence of guilt, leading to the execution of the entire Shen family. Even his wife, whose eyebrows he is painting, will be given a cup of poisoned wine to die. Truly the epitome of beauty, strength, and tragedy. The Shen family is the one who annihilated his clan, yet he has to feign affection for the daughter of his enemy. How difficult. The eyebrow pencil slipped from his fingers with a sharp snap. I looked at his suddenly pale face in the bronze mirror and the lines of golden bullet comments behind him, feeling a chill shoot from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. My dear, what's wrong? Did I hurt you? Chu Heng's voice was as gentle as ever, tinged with a barely noticeable tension. He quickly crouched down to pick up the broken eyebrow pencil, but as if flustered, his fingertips failed to grasp it several times. I gazed at his flawlessly handsome profile, sweat quietly soaking through the back of my clothes. Host, don't panic, stay calm. Right now. You're just a delicate, fragile beauty. You can't expose yourself. Yes, 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 whatever you do, don't break character. Her father is a treacherous minister, her brother is a tyrant, and she herself is a useless waste of space with nothing but good looks. There's no way she could spot a flaw. Woo-woo. My heart aches for my Chu Lang. For the great cause of revenge, he has to act every day in front of the daughter of his enemy. The daughter of his enemy. These 5 words are like poison-tipped needles, piercing straight into my heart. My father, Shen Qiao, the current prime minister, forms cliques for personal gain and holds absolute power, feared by everyone in and out of the court. My brother Shen Lang, the #1 playboy in the capital, relied on his family's influence to indulge in cockfighting, dog racing, and bullying men and women. The magistrate's desk was piled high with complaints against him, yet no one dared to bring him to trial. As for me, Shen Qingqing, the only legitimate daughter of the Shen family, I was naturally a spoiled and useless brat, arrogant, domineering, and completely illiterate. This was the reputation our entire family had in the capital, and this was also Chu Heng's perception of me, and of our family. So, my father is the one who killed his entire family. So, his 3 years of tenderness, painting my eyebrows and combing my hair, were nothing but a long-planned deception. A metallic, bloody taste rose in my throat, and I forced it down. I must not panic. I cannot die yet. I reached out with my soft, boneless hand and gently touched his trembling shoulder, my voice soft and sweet, carrying its usual coquettish tone. Husband, you scared me. It's just an eyebrow pencil. We can always buy another one. Look how nervous you are. Chu Heng's body visibly stiffened. He slowly raised his head, and in those peach blossom eyes that were always full of affection, there now surged a complex emotion I had never seen before. There was shock, scrutiny, and a trace of embarrassment at being seen through by me. What's with her? Shouldn't she be furious and make you kneel on an abacus as punishment? The plot isn't right. According to the records, Shen Qingqing is spoiled and willful. Last time, just because Chu Heng accidentally knocked over her teacup, she made him stand in the courtyard all night. Could it be that our appearance has triggered a butterfly effect? My heart stirred. Our appearance? Who are they? On my face, I maintained that innocent and naive expression, even pouting as I complained, "Husband, my eyebrows are only half done. Get up quickly and finish them for me. Today, Master Bai from the Imperial College is giving a lecture, and we agreed to go together." The scrutiny in Chu Heng's eyes grew deeper. He stared at me for a long time. So long that I could barely maintain the expression on my face. He slowly stood up, picked up a new eyebrow pencil, and said in a low voice, "All right, I'll do as you say, madam." He leaned in close, his warm breath brushing against my cheek. I can clearly smell the crisp scent of fur on him, which is my favorite fragrance. But now, this smell is suffocating me. He has the military defense map he just stole from your father's study hidden in his sleeve. It must not be discovered. Finish the drawing quickly and leave. Delays may bring trouble. Strange. Why is Ching so quiet today? Something feels off. The military defense map, something from my father's study. My eyes flickered subtly, as he leaned in, focused on tracing my eyebrows. I casually raised my hand and lifted the teacup from the table. "Husband, I'm thirsty." He didn't look up, his voice still gentle. Just a moment." He painted with utmost seriousness, as if carving a rare treasure, but I knew. All of this was fake. The more affection he showed, the more intense the hatred in his heart grew. At the very moment the final stroke of my eyebrow makeup was applied, my hand accidentally trembled. Oh my, a full cup of scalding tea splashed, without the slightest deviation, entirely onto the sleeve of his raised right arm. "Husband," I cried out in alarm, standing up in a fluster. "Are you okay? Did it burn you?" "It's all my fault, I'm so clumsy." Chu-hung's face instantly turned deathly pale. Not from the burn, but from fear. I saw him instinctively cover his sleeve, his body tensed like a fully drawn bow. "Oh no, the military defense map is made of special silk, the ink will smudge if it gets wet." "Host, think of something. You absolutely can't let her take off your clothes." What to do? What to do? Is he about to be exposed? The barrage instantly exploded, with all sorts of golden text scrolling frantically before my eyes, almost blinding me, and I, playing the part of a panicked wife, grabbed his arm, my eyes brimming with tears. "Husband, quickly take off your outer robe. Let me see if you're burned. The water is so hot, it must have blistered." As I spoke, my hand moved to untie his sash. "Don't move," Chu-hung shouted sharply and abruptly shook off my hand. The force was so great that I staggered back 2 steps and bumped into the dressing table. I looked at him in disbelief. In the past 3 years, he had never spoken a harsh word to me, let alone pushed me so roughly. He seemed to realize he had overreacted, as panic and ferocity flashed in his eyes, only to be quickly replaced by deep regret and heartache. Ching, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." He stepped forward, wanting to help me up, his expression pained and conflicted. I was just afraid of scalding you." What a clumsy excuse. So close, so close. I almost gave myself away. What a lame excuse. But Ching, that love-struck fool, probably bought it. Woo-woo. My heart aches for Chu Lang. Now he has to coax this empty-headed beauty again. I really wish I could just finish her off with one strike, so Chu Lang can focus on his ambitions. Love-struck fool, empty-headed beauty. Perfect. I just want all of you to think that way. I clutched my sore arm, my eyes instantly reddening as large teardrops rolled down. "You yelled at me. Chu-hung, how dare you yell at me?" I cried so hard I could barely catch my breath, looking every bit like a spoiled young lady who had suffered the greatest injustice. "Don't you love me anymore? You never treated me like this before. Do you despise me now?" I cried while watching him out of the corner of my eye. Chu-hung's face was full of anxiety and helplessness. He wanted to approach but hesitated because of his soaked sleeve. Ching, I don't, how could I ever despise you? I don't care." I stomped my foot, turned around, and ran outside. "You just don't love me anymore. I'm going to tell father and have him kick you out. Quick, chase after her. We absolutely can't let her see Shen Qiao. That old fox Shen Qiao is far too shrewd. If he catches on, it's all over. Host, use the handsome man tactic, quick." Without needing the barrage reminder, Chu-hung had already caught up. He grabbed me from behind, holding me tightly in his arms, the soaked sleeve pressed against my skin, icy cold. He rested his chin on my shoulder, his voice hoarse and pleading. Ching, don't go, it's my fault. I shouldn't have been harsh with you. Hit me, scold me, punish me however you want. Just don't say you're sending me away, okay?" His embrace was warm, his voice full of deep emotion. If it weren't for those bullet comments, I might have almost lost myself in it. I could feel the hard object hidden in his sleeve, pressing painfully against me through the soaked fabric. My heart felt as if it were being cut by a knife, yet I still sobbed in his arms. Then take off your clothes and let me see the wound. This demand felt like a lifeline, yet also like a death sentence. Chu Heng's body visibly stiffened. Damn, why is she still hung up on this? Host. You absolutely must not take it off. Stall. Use your tender tactics to stall. Quick. Kiss her. Women love this move. Kiss her until she's dizzy, and she'll forget everything. The barrage suggestion was simple and crude, yet it hit the mark. I looked at Chu Heng, a flicker of humiliation and resolve flashing in his eyes, like a martyr about to face execution. Then, he abruptly lowered his head and seized my lips without another word. This kiss was unlike any before. Gone were the lingering tenderness and warmth of the past, replaced by a desperate, chilling intensity. His lips were cold, like ice. I could even feel clearly the hard scroll hidden beneath his damp, cold sleeve, pressed tightly against my waist, the military defense map, the death warrant of our Shen family. I felt icy cold all over, yet I had to play the part of a lovesick maiden, swooning from a sudden kiss in his embrace. I struggled symbolically a couple of times, then went limp in his arms. My hands feebly clutching at his lapel. It works, it really works. Look at her pitiful state, her soul is practically flying away from that kiss. After all, she's just a lovesick fool, so easy to handle. Well done, Chu Lang. I don't know how long it took, but he finally let go of me. I gasped for breath. My cheeks flushed crimson, my gaze dazed as I looked at him. Chu Heng's breathing was also unsteady. He cupped my face, his forehead pressed against mine, his voice hoarse to the extreme. Ching Ching, don't be angry with me. All right, later, after I change into clean clothes, I'll accompany you to the Imperial College. He successfully shifted the topic from taking off clothes to changing clothes. I lowered my eyelids, my long lashes trembling like startled butterfly wings. Then hurry up, please. My voice was soft and gentle, carrying a hint of coyness after being soothed. Okay, he seemed greatly relieved. Gently pressing a kiss on my forehead before turning and quickly walking into the inner room, I watched his almost fleeing figure, slowly straightening up. The blush and shyness on her face vanished in an instant, leaving only a cold, icy calm. I walked to the dressing table and looked at myself in the bronze mirror, someone with delicate features but an indifferent expression. Love-struck fool, pretty but empty-headed, perfect. I just want all of you, Chu Heng, and everyone else to believe that I, Shen Qingqing, am nothing but a useless waste. Only a waste can sharpen their claws right under the hunter's nose. Chu Heng, my dear husband, this act of ours has only just begun. Chu Heng stayed in the inner chamber for a long time. Likely, he was dealing with the military defense map that had been soaked. I didn't rush him. Instead, I picked out a golden hairpin and leisurely tucked it into my hair. The maid, Biyue, came in and asked softly, "Miss, are we still going to the Imperial College?" "The carriage is ready." I looked into the mirror, adjusted my hairpin, and said calmly, "Go, of course I'll go. Master Bai of the Imperial Academy is a great scholar of our time, profound in learning and most particular about integrity. My father, the so-called treacherous minister, my brother, the so-called tyrant, and me, the so-called good-for-nothing, we are all the kind of people he despises the most. I used to find him rigid and boring, always trying every possible way to skip his classes. Chu Heng coaxed me into coming to the lecture with him, just so I could learn more, but today, I insisted on going by myself. I stood up, smoothed my skirt, and walked straight out. Biyue was taken aback and quickly followed. "Miss, aren't you waiting for the young master?" "I won't wait any longer," I said without turning my head. "He's so busy, let's not disturb him." There was more to these words than met the ear. Biyue might not have caught it, but those hiding in the shadows surely would. Just as I stepped out of the courtyard gate, I bumped right into someone. The person was dressed in luxurious brocade robes, tall and imposing, with features that bore a striking resemblance to mine only with a more flamboyant and roguish air. It's my bully brother, Shen Lang, who runs rampant in the capital. "Well, if it isn't our young lady, where are you off to?" Shen Lang crossed his arms, looking at me sideways, his tone full of teasing. Behind him were a few of his dubious friends, all eyeing me with curious looks. "Brother," I called out softly, "where's that brat Chu Heng? Why isn't he with you? Did he bully you again?" Shen Lang's brows immediately furrowed, looking as if he was about to charge in and settle the score. The whole capital knows my brother is a troublemaker. But only I know he's just a spoiled, not-so-bright sister-obsessed maniac. No, I sidestepped him and continued walking. I'm going to the Imperial College to attend a lecture. A collective gasp echoed from behind me. Shen Lang, as if hearing some outlandish tale, took a swift step to block my path and reached out to feel my forehead. You don't have a fever. Ching ching. Have you lost your mind? The Imperial College. Can you even understand old man Bai's lectures? I want to. And it's none of your business. I brushed his hand away, my tone impatient. This was the usual way I spoke to him. Shen Lang was choked by my words, rubbed his nose, and muttered, all right, go ahead, I'll have someone escort you. As he spoke, he was about to wave to the servants behind him. No need. I refused directly. I'll go by myself. Shen Lang's expression completely froze. He stared at me intently, his eyes filled with scrutiny and confusion. Ching ching, you're not yourself today. My heart tightened. My brother, though reckless, had an intuition that was frighteningly accurate. I immediately put on an impatient, spoiled expression and stomped my foot hard. Oh, will you stop bothering me? I'm going to study to make my husband happy. He likes well-educated and refined women, so of course I have to try to become the kind of person he likes. If you keep stopping me, I'll tell father that you're bullying me. Bringing up dad has always been my trump card against my brother. Sure enough, Shen Lang's expression changed. He curled his lip and reluctantly stepped aside. All right, I'm scared of you. A love-struck woman is truly terrifying. I snorted coldly and, with Biua in tow, boarded the carriage directly. The carriage curtain fell, blocking his inquisitive gaze. I leaned back against the cushion and let out a soft sigh. The carriage began to move slowly, and I lifted a corner of the curtain. The Imperial College was to the east, and I, however, said to the coachman, to the southern city, the Blue Tile Tea House. That place is not for listening to lectures. Rather, it is the most important secret contact point in the capital for my father, Chancellor Shen. The Blue Tile Tea House, nestled in a shabby alley at the southernmost edge of the capital, was utterly inconspicuous. Its patrons were all peddlers and laborious. No one would have guessed it was the property of Chancellor Shen. A man of immense power and influence, my father was a shrewd strategist, always keeping multiple hideouts like a cunning hare. He never told me about these matters, but I have my own ways of finding out. Although I'm known as a good-for-nothing, I once secretly learned tracking skills to pursue an aloof and proud scholar. Even though I only learned it half-heartedly, it's more than enough to tail my father, who never takes precautions. I know several of his secret hideouts. And the Blue Tile Tea House is the most hidden one among them. The carriage stopped at the entrance of the alley. I had Biua wait in the carriage while I lifted the hem of my skirt and stepped into the shabby tea house. The tea house was dimly lit, filled with the mixed scent of cheap tea leaves and sweat. The waiter, a gaunt middle-aged man, was dozing off on the counter. He lazily lifted his eyelids when he saw me enter. Customer, what would you like to drink? I didn't speak, but simply took a jade pendant from my sleeve and placed it on the counter. The jade was of ordinary quality, yet carved with the character Qiao in seal script. It was my father's personal seal. The shop assistant's dull eyes instantly turned sharp upon seeing the jade pendant. He immediately straightened up and bowed respectfully to me. Master, please follow me. He led me through the greasy main hall, exited through the back door, and after several twists and turns, we entered a small courtyard. In the courtyard stood an old locust tree, with a stone table and stools beneath it. An elderly man in a grey robe was leisurely sipping tea. Seeing me, the old man showed no surprise. He set down the teacup, rose slowly, and cupped his hands in a respectful salute toward me. Young mistress, I knew him. He was Uncle Qin, my father's most trusted advisor and the true master behind the Shen family's hidden businesses and intelligence network. My father always said he was nothing but a refined hanger-on, yet he never knew that Uncle Qin was the one weaving that invisible, far-reaching web. Uncle Qin, I got straight to the point. I need to look into someone. Lord Qin smiled faintly and made a please gesture. Please speak, Miss Chu Heng. I uttered this name, feeling as if a needle had pricked my heart. 3 years ago, that Chu Heng who married into our Shen family. I want to know everything about him, his family background. his past, all the people and events before he married into the Shen family. The smile on Uncle Chin's face faded slightly. Miss, regarding the young master's matter, the Prime Minister's side, I will speak to my father myself. I cut him off, my tone leaving no room for argument. Uncle Chin, just tell me, will you investigate or not? I stared at him intently. I knew that Uncle Chin only listened to my father. But I bet that my father's love for me was enough to make him break the rules for me just this once. Uncle Chin fell silent for a moment, a glint of shrewdness flashing in his murky eyes. Finally, he slowly nodded. Your servant obeys. Within 3 days, all the materials will be delivered to the young lady. Thank you, Uncle Chin. I curtsied and turned to leave. I couldn't stay here for too long. Only after leaving the tea house and getting into the carriage did I realize my palms were covered in cold sweat. This was the first time I had wielded the power that belonged to the treacherous Minister Shen Qiao. It feels not bad at all. By the time I returned to the residence, the sky had already darkened. Chu Heng was standing at the courtyard gate, pacing back and forth anxiously. His moon-white robe accentuated his tall and upright figure. Like a solitary jade tree standing apart from the world, upon seeing my carriage, he immediately came forward, his face filled with worry and lingering fear. Ching, you're finally back. Where have you been? I've been looking for you all afternoon. His voice carried a barely noticeable tremor. Heavens, she's finally back. I thought she had been discovered and locked up by Shen Qiao. Host, quick, use your acting skills. Ask her where she went. Test her, looking at her like that. She must have gone to buy jewelry again. A false alarm. I looked at him, at the golden bullet comments behind him, and suddenly found it somewhat amusing. I let him hold my hand, a look of weariness and grievance on my face. I went to the Imperial College. Didn't you know? The Imperial College. Chu Heng was taken aback. But when I went to look for you later, they said you never even went in. I lowered my head, fiddling with the corner of my clothes. My voice as faint as a mosquito's hum. I walked to the door, but I didn't dare go in. Master Bai doesn't like me. I was afraid he would scold me. I looked up at him, my eyes red and teary. Husband, am I really that useless? I don't even have the courage to attend the lecture. This expression, on the verge of tears, so full of self-doubt and pitifulness, precisely struck Chu Heng's soft spot. Or rather, it precisely struck the soft spot of his persona. He immediately pulled me into his arms. His movements gentle, his voice filled with heartache. Silly, how could that be? My Ching is the best. If you don't want to go, we won't. From now on, I'll read to you. He held me, his chin gently rubbing against the top of my head. I missed you so much after not seeing you all afternoon. His voice was soft and sincere. If I didn't know the truth, I would have really thought he loved me. Alas, my heart aches for my dear Chu Lang, having to feign affection in front of his enemy. Soon, just endure a little longer. Once we bring down the Shen family, it will all be over. By the way, how is that military defense map coming along? Has it dried yet? I nestled in his embrace, a faint, undetectable cold smile curling at the corner of my lips. Defense map, Chu Heng. Do you think you've hidden it well? At night, Chu Heng said he was handling official business and stayed in the study for a long time. I knew he was dealing with that defense map. I didn't disturb him either and went to bed early myself, or rather, pretended to go to bed. In the middle of the night, I felt the person beside me quietly get up. His movements were very light, almost making no sound at all. I lay on my side, breathing steadily, motionless. He stood by the bed watching me for a long time, so long that I thought he had noticed something. Then, he leaned down and placed a very, very light kiss on my forehead. It carried a hint of coolness and an endless complexity. Then, he turned around and silently left the room. The moment he left, I opened my eyes. There was not a trace of sleepiness in them, only clarity. I quietly got out of bed, put on my coat, and followed him out. I must see who my dear husband is going to meet in the middle of the night. The night was as dark as ink. Chu Heng's figure moved like a ghost through the intricate corridors of the Shen mansion. His lightness skill was excellent, clearly the result of special training. If I hadn't thoroughly memorized all the hiding spots and patrol routes of my father's secret guards since childhood, I would have lost track long ago. He avoided all the guards along the way and finally arrived at the most remote, abandoned garden of the Shen residence. The garden was overgrown with weeds, and the rockeries stood jagged and uneven. He skillfully pressed a few spots on the rockery, and with a click, a narrow passageway, just wide enough for one person, was revealed behind it. I hid behind a distant tree, my heart pounding with shock. The Shun family actually had a secret passage I didn't know about, and judging by Chu Heng's familiarity, it clearly wasn't his first time using it. He slipped into the passage, and the rockery slowly closed behind him. I didn't follow him in recklessly. My intuition told me that at the other end of the secret passage, there must be immense danger waiting for him, or rather, waiting for our Shun family. I waited quietly where I was. After about the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, the rockery opened again. Chu Heng came out from inside, looking much more relaxed than when he had entered. I guess he had already handed over that incriminating evidence. He quickly left the garden and retraced his steps. I waited until he was far away before emerging from behind the tree and walking up to the rockery. I imitated his earlier actions, feeling around the same spot. Sure enough, I found that mechanism too. The secret passage was pitch black, filled with a damp, musty smell. I had no fire starter, so I could only rely on the faint moonlight seeping through the cracks. Stumbling forward step by step, the passage was not long, ending at a heavy stone door. I pushed it, but the stone door didn't budge. It seemed this door could only be opened from the outside. This secret passage was a one-way route specifically prepared for insiders like Chu Heng. I was somewhat disappointed and about to turn back when I seemed to kick something with my foot. I bent down and felt around in the dim light. It was a small bamboo tube. A red string was tied around it. My heart stirred, and I picked up the bamboo tube, tucking it into my sleeve. This item was likely given to Chu Heng by his superior. Perhaps he had dropped it accidentally in his haste to leave. I returned to the room without a sound. Chu Heng hadn't come back yet. I lay back on the bed and took out the bamboo tube. Opening it, I found a small slip of paper inside. On the slip were just 4 words: "Proceed as planned." Plan? What plan? Before I could think it through, I heard faint footsteps outside the door. Chu Heng was back. I quickly stuffed the note and the bamboo tube under the pillow and closed my eyes. He entered the room, his movements still very quiet. He walked to the bedside, tucked in the corner of my blanket, and then lay down beside me. He carried a chill of the late night and a faint, elusive, scent of blood. My heart skipped a beat, but I still didn't dare to move. Was he hurt? In the darkness, I could feel his intense gaze fixed on my face. After a long while, he suddenly reached out, gently and tentatively, and pulled me into his embrace. His arms were so forceful, as if trying to press me into his very bones and blood. "Ching ching," he murmured in my ear, in a voice only the two of us could hear, like a dreamy whisper, "Sorry." Those 3 words were like a poisoned dagger, stabbing straight into my heart. What are you sorry for? Sorry for deceiving me? Or sorry for being about to take the lives of our entire family? My body trembled slightly with anger, but he mistook it for a delicate, dreamlike innocence. He held me even tighter. Alas, the host is still too soft-hearted. After all, she is the wife who has shared the bed for 3 years. Even if she is the daughter of an enemy, it's normal to have some feelings. Stop thinking and get some sleep. There's a tough battle to fight tomorrow. That old fox Shen Qiao has arranged a secret meeting with the Minister of Revenue at his residence. We must get the ledger of his embezzlement. The ledger of embezzlement, my father, and the Minister of Revenue. I instantly understood what their so-called plan was. They intended to fabricate evidence to frame my father for embezzlement and bribery. Zhong Qinian, the Minister of Revenue, is my father's sworn enemy. The two have been at odds in the imperial court for over a decade. As incompatible as fire and water, how could my father possibly be holding a secret meeting with him in our own residence? This is a trap specifically designed for Chu Heng, and for our Shun family. I closed my eyes, letting him breathe steadily by my ear, feigning deep sleep, yet my mind was racing at full speed. Chu Heng, the Emperor, you want to ruin my father's reputation. Do you want to ruin the Shun family completely? I won't let you have your way. The next day, I deliberately got up very late. By the time I finished dressing up and stepped out of the courtyard, I saw a flurry of figures in the direction of my father's study. My father, Shen Qiao. was walking out side by side with a middle-aged man dressed in the official robes of the second rank. They were chatting happily, looking as though they had met too late in life. That man was none other than the Minister of Revenue, Zhong Qinian. I stood frozen in place, as if struck by lightning. How could this be? Has my father really gotten involved with Zhong Qinian? Ching. Come here. My father saw me and beckoned me over, his face wearing its usual sternness, but deep in his eyes there was a barely noticeable hint of calculation. My heart skipped a beat, suppressing a bellyful of doubts. I obediently walked over. Father. Then I bowed slightly to Zhong Qinian. Uncle Zhong. Zhong Qinian stroked his beard, looking at me with a cheerful smile. It's been a while, Ching. You've grown even more lovely. Minister Shen is truly blessed. You flatter me, Lord Zhong. My father responded with a forced smile. I kept my head down, but from the corner of my eye, I caught sight of Chu Heng hiding behind the moon gate not far away. He was staring intently in our direction, his expression tense. Here it comes. The main event is here. Host, did you see? Shen Qiao and Zhong Qinian have already colluded. The account book must be on Shen Qiao. Later, Shen Qiao will go to the pavilion in the back garden to drink tea. That's your best chance to make a move. My heart sank. They even calculated my father's route of movement. It seems that in the Shen residence, there is more than just Chu Heng as an inside agent. My father exchanged a few pleasantries with Zhong Qinian and personally escorted him to the mansion's entrance. On his way back, he passed by me and paused for a moment. He looked at me and suddenly asked, "Where did you go yesterday?" His gaze was calm, yet it resembled a bottomless ancient well, making it impossible for me to discern any emotion. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly lowered my head, murmuring softly, I went to the Imperial College." "Is that so?" he replied indifferently, his tone betraying neither joy nor anger. "I thought my daughter, Shen Qiao, would be more interested in my hidden business ventures." Boom, something exploded in my mind. He knows I went to the blue tile tea house. My body instantly stiffened, and cold sweat poured down. I know my father's methods better than anyone. If he were to get angry, he knows. Damn, that old fox Shen Qiao, how could he know? Oh no. Did Shen Qingqing reveal something? If she gets punished, will it affect our plans? The barrage of comments exploded. I could sense that Chu Heng, hiding in the shadows, had even stopped breathing. Yet, my father just watched me quietly. After a long while, he suddenly sighed, raised his hand as if to pat my head like he did when I was a child, but paused mid-air. In the end, it just landed on my shoulder and gave a gentle pat. "Qingqing, you've grown up." His voice carried a hint of complex emotion I couldn't quite understand. There was relief, there was loss, and a touch of sorrow. "Father," I opened my mouth, but didn't know what to say. "Go," he interrupted me, withdrawing his hand and turning to walk toward the back garden. "Go do what you want to do. Father has only one request. Protect yourself. And your brother." After saying this, he never looked back again, his lonely figure walking toward that pavilion. I stood frozen in place, unable to snap out of it for a long time. My father, what does this mean? Did he tacitly approve of my actions, or even encourage me? Could it be that he also noticed something amiss? Phew, that scared me to death. Just a false alarm. It seems Shen Qiao was just testing her casually. Well, someone like Shen Qingqing, a total airhead, what could she possibly accomplish? Host, stop spacing out. Get ready to act. We only have one chance. Chu Heng also visibly breathed a sigh of relief. I saw him quietly follow my father, his figure disappearing into the bushes of the garden. I stood still, but my heart was in turmoil. No, something was definitely wrong. From what I knew of my father, he was not the kind of person to make empty threats. He said I've grown up, and told me to protect myself and my brother. This sounds more like an entrustment. A terrifying thought flashed through my mind. Could it be that my father already knew Chu Heng's true identity? Did he know the emperor was going to move against him? Was his meeting with Zhong Qinian today also intentional? The more I thought about it, the more frightened I became. If that's really the case, then my father, what is he trying to do? Lure the snake out of its hole, or turn the enemy's scheme to one's advantage? No, I can't wait any longer. My father is playing a grand game of chess, and I cannot remain a passive pawn. I turned around and quickly headed towards my brother Shenlang's courtyard. When I found Shenlang, he was holding a fighting rooster and boasting to his gang of good-for-nothing friends, "See this? This is General Ever Victorious. I spent 500 taels of gold on it. Today, it's definitely going to make Minister Li's butterfly run away with its tail between its legs." All around, there was a chorus of flattering praises. "Brother Lang is mighty. This rooster looks extraordinary. It's bound to win right from the start." I frowned, stepped forward, snatched the ever-victorious general from his arms, and tossed it to the servant beside me. "Brother, come with me. I have something to say to you." My tone was very serious, leaving no room for negotiation. Shenlang was stunned, and so were his friends. "Ching, what are you doing, my chicken?" He was so anxious that he was hopping with frustration. "Which is more important, a chicken or the fate of our Shen family?" I looked at him coldly. This sentence felt like a basin of ice water poured over my head. The playful smile on Shenlang's face vanished instantly. He dismissed the attendants around him and looked at me with a grave expression. Ching, explain clearly, what exactly is wrong?" I pulled him and walked into the room, closing the door behind us. "Brother, do you think just because father holds great power at court and our Shen family is as solid as a fortress, you can do whatever you want outside?" Shenlang curled his lips, looking unconvinced. "Isn't that so? In the capital, aside from the royal family, who dares to provoke us? What if it's the royal family that wants to move against us?" I asked, word by word. Shenlang's pupils abruptly contracted. What nonsense are you talking? Our Shen family is utterly loyal to the emperor. Why would the emperor want to move against us? Loyal and devoted." I let out a cold laugh. "Brother, don't deceive yourself. Father forms cliques for personal gain, and you act like a tyrant. Which of these is the behavior of a loyal subject or a good citizen? Achieving such great merit that it overshadows the ruler is a sure path to death. What's more, in the emperor's eyes, our Shen family has long become a nail that must be pulled out." These words struck Shenlang's heart like a heavy hammer. His face turned pale, his lips trembled, but he couldn't utter a single word in rebuttal, because he knew that what I said was all true. "Then, what should we do?" he panicked, showing the helplessness a young man should have for the first time. "Does father know? Should we go tell father?" "Father probably already knows," I said in a low voice. "He met Zhong Qinian today." "What?" Shenlang exclaimed in shock. "That old scoundrel Zhong Qinian. What did father want with him? Aren't they sworn enemies?" "That's exactly the problem." I looked at him, my gaze intense. "Brother, we can't go on muddling through like we used to. The Shen family's ship might soon sink. We can't just sit and wait for disaster." Shenlang was stunned by the resolve and calmness in my eyes. He stared at me blankly, as if seeing his little sister for the first time. Ching, how do you know these things?" "Now is not the time to talk about this." I grabbed his hand and said earnestly, "Brother, I need you to do something for me." "What is it?" "Right now, immediately. Take your group of friends to the largest casino outside the city and declare that you're going to gamble extravagantly." Shenlang looked utterly bewildered. "Make as big a scene as possible. Draw all the idle young masters in the capital over there. Then, in the casino, accidentally get into a conflict with someone and smash the place up for me." Smash the casino. Shenlang's eyes lit up. This was right up his alley, but he hesitated again. "But, that Dai gambling house, isn't it our family's business? Smash our own place." "Exactly. We're going to smash our own place." I looked at him and said word by word, "After you finish smashing it, spread the word in the gambling den that you've taken a fancy to Dai house and plan to take it over, turning it into the largest cockfighting arena in the capital. Then, take this land deed and go find the manager of Dai house to have him sign the transfer." I took a land deed from my sleeve that I had prepared long ago. What was written on it, however, was not the delightful quarter, but an abandoned royal villa located in the suburbs. Shenlang looked at the land deed, even more confused. Ching, what exactly are you trying to do?" I leaned close to his ear and explained my plan to him in every detail. The more he listened, the wider his eyes grew, until finally, his gaze was filled with shock and disbelief. Ching, you mean, Chu Heng, he, that's right, I nodded. "Brother, now, the only ones we can rely on are ourselves. Do you still trust me?" Shen Lang looked at me and remained silent for a long time. The playfulness and recklessness in his eyes gradually faded. Replaced by an unprecedented seriousness and determination, he nodded heavily. I believe you, sister. Just tell me how to do it, and I'll follow your lead. Shen Lang's ability to take action was beyond my expectations. Or perhaps, when the matter truly concerned the survival of our family, this playboy who had been sheltered under my father's and my wings finally showed the responsibility befitting a man of the Shen family. In less than half an hour, the news had spread throughout the entire capital. The eldest son of the Shen family, Shen Lang, splurged a fortune at the Delight Casino. In a fit of rage over a gambling dispute, he smashed the entire casino to pieces. Not only that, he also boasted that he would buy the Delight Casino and turn it into the largest cockfighting arena in the entire capital. The news spread like wildfire, quickly reaching every street and alley of the capital. For a time, everyone's attention was drawn to the sudden commotion in the southern part of the city. Even the Imperial Palace has probably received the news. Meanwhile, I took advantage of everyone's attention being drawn to my brother, changed into a servant's outfit, and quietly slipped into my father's study. The study was empty. My father was still drinking tea in the pavilion of the back garden, waiting for Chu Heng to take the bait, and Chu Heng, by now, should have also succeeded and be figuring out how to make his escape. I had no time to spare. I walked straight to the bookshelf and, following the position I remembered, turned a blue and white porcelain vase on the third row. Creak. Behind the bookshelf, a small hidden room was revealed. This was father's true study. Inside were stored the Shen family's most confidential secrets. I walked in, and the door of the hidden room slowly closed behind me. I quickly lit the candle holder on the table, and the light illuminated the entire secret room. The room was small, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lining all four walls, filled with various account books and files. Was my father corrupt? Yes, but the money he embezzled was not used to line his own pockets. It was spent elsewhere. I quickly found a hidden compartment on the bookshelf and took out a black tin box from it. Opening the box, I found several account books lying quietly inside. These were the real account books of the Shen family. It is clearly recorded above where every penny my father embezzled from the national treasury under the pretext of corruption over the years was actually used. Building river embankments, aiding disaster victims, compensating the families of fallen soldiers, and even secretly funding the northern border troops to purchase provisions and weapons. My father, Shen Qiao, is seen by the world as the most treacherous prime minister. Yet behind the scenes, he has been doing cleaner deeds than anyone else. He used his own infamy to patch up this crumbling dynasty, all because the current emperor, suspicious and paranoid, craved grand achievements and was a ruler who could not tolerate meritorious officials. My father had no choice but to use this method to protect the loyal ministers and generals who truly served the country and its people, maintaining the balance of the court. The irony is, the very ruler he was devoted to protecting was meticulously plotting to take his life. And Chu Heng, that young man burdened with a deep-seated blood feud, was also kept in the dark, becoming the most useful blade. My heart ached, but now was not the time for sorrow. I pulled out one of the account books concerning the northern border military supplies and hid it in my robe. Then, from another hidden compartment, I took out a stack of land deeds and silver notes. This is the true foundation of our Shen family. After completing all this, I put the tin box back exactly as it was, restored all the mechanisms, and quickly left the secret room. Just as I stepped out of the study, I saw Chu Heng walking hurriedly from the direction of the back garden. He had changed his clothes, but the tension and excitement between his brows were impossible to hide. Clearly, he had already stolen the evidence of guilt he wanted from my father. The two of us unexpectedly met under the corridor. Ching Ching, seeing me dressed in servant's clothes, he froze. What are you? Why is she here? And dressed like that? Has she discovered something? No, judging by her appearance, it seems like she's up to no good. Never mind her. Our mission is already complete. Host, hurry back and hand the account book to the contact. I looked at him, deliberately putting on a sneaky expression, placed my index finger to my lips, and made a sh sound. Then, I winked at him, lowered my voice, and said excitedly, "Husband, I'll tell you a secret. but you mustn't tell anyone." A hint of caution flashed in Chu Heng's eyes, but he played along and asked, "What secret?" "My brother. He smashed our family's own casino today." I gestured animatedly, my face full of schadenfreude. "I'm telling you, he's such a fool. Father is definitely going to be furious." I sneaked into Father's study earlier to see if he had hidden anything interesting, and guess what I found? Chu Heng's heart leaped into his throat. He stared at me nervously. "What did you find?" I pulled a booklet from my robe and waved it in front of him. "Ta-da, an account book. It's filled with lots and lots of numbers. I can't understand them, but it must be worth a fortune. I'm going to trade it for some candy." That booklet was something I casually picked up from the outer study, an insignificant old ledger from years past. But in Chu Heng's eyes, it was nothing short of a thunderclap. Because the cover of that booklet was identical to the evidence my father had just had stolen by him, his face instantly turned deathly pale. How could this be? Why does she also have an account book? Did Shen Qiao prepare several copies? "Oh no, host, the one in your hand might be fake." Chu Heng's gaze was fixed intently on the account book in my hand. The shock, anger, and disbelief in his eyes were almost palpable. Yet, I completely ignored his murderous glare. Continuing to play the part of the naive and foolish pretty but empty-headed beauty, holding the account book in my arms as if it were some precious treasure, I happily twirled around. "Husband, how many sticks of candied hawthorn do you think this thing can trade for? 10, or maybe 100, darling?" Chu Heng suddenly stepped forward and grabbed my wrist. His grip was so strong it hurt me. His voice was squeezed through clenched teeth, carrying an uncontrollable ferocity. "Where did you get this thing?" I was startled by him, and my eyes instantly reddened. You're hurting me," I pouted, tears welling up in my eyes. "I just took it from Father's study. Father loves me the most. He wouldn't blame me anyway. Give it to me," he was practically ordering. "Host, calm down. Don't scare her. Quick, soothe her. Trick her into handing over the ledger. If the one in your hands is the real one, then the one given to the Emperor is just a worthless piece of paper. Yes, maybe that old fox Shen Yao deliberately let you steal a fake, while the real one is with Shen Qingqing. That woman may be foolish, but her luck has always been good." The bullet screen's reminder quickly calmed Chu Heng down. He took a deep breath, released my wrist, and put back on that gentle expression that seemed soft enough to drip water. He raised his hand, gently brushing away the tear at the corner of my eye, his voice extremely soft. "Qingqing, I'm sorry, I was too impatient. I didn't mean to be harsh with you. This ledger is very important to the Lord Chancellor. It can't be traded for candy. Be good, give it to me, and I'll return it to the Lord Chancellor." "All right," he spoke as if coaxing a 3-year-old child. I looked at him, my eyes brimming with tears, my face full of grievance and reluctance. "But, I just want the candied hawthorn." "I'll buy it for you," he said immediately, with a hint of urgency in his tone. "I'll buy you as many as you want. I'll buy you all the sugar-coated whores in the entire capital." "All right, really?" My eyes lit up. "Really?" He nodded heavily. "Then swear it." Pouting, I made a very childish demand. Chu Heng's mouth twitched, but upon seeing my determined gaze, he still raised his hand. "I swear, I'll buy you all the candied hawthorns in the capital. Now, can you give me the account book?" I hesitated for a moment, but in the end, I reluctantly handed him the account book I was holding. Then, "You mustn't tell Father." "Okay, all right, I won't tell him." Chu Heng snatched the ledger away, clutching it tightly in his hand as if he were holding on to his very life. He didn't even have time to say another word to me before turning and hurrying away, watching his flustered retreat. The innocence and grievance on my face vanished in an instant, replaced by icy mockery. "Chu Heng, do you really think you've got the real ledger?" "No. What you've obtained is merely another piece of incriminating evidence I prepared for you, a piece of evidence sufficient to condemn Zhong Qinian, the Minister of Revenue, to eternal damnation. As for the real Shen family account book, it is now resting quietly in my embrace, and now, the real show is just beginning." 3 days later, Duke Qin delivered Chu Heng's documents, along with another item, into my hands. I opened the file, which contained a detailed record of everything about Chu Heng. His original name was not Chu Heng, but Lin Yang. His father was once the renowned imperial censor Lin Zhengqing, famous throughout the capital. The Lin family has been known for generations as upright and loyal to the monarch and country. Lin Zhengqing, in particular, was renowned for his outspokenness and integrity, which earned him many enemies in the court, including my father and Zhong Qinian, 5 years ago. A major case of colluding with the enemy and treason completely dragged the Lin family into ruin. The chief judge presiding over this case was none other than my father, Shen Qiao. The so-called evidence was provided by the Minister of Revenue, Zhong Qinian. In the end, all 137 members of the Lin family were executed. Only Lin Yang, who was studying away from home at the time, narrowly escaped the disaster. Enduring humiliation and bearing a heavy burden, he changed his name and identity, entered the royal shadow guard camp, and was chosen by the emperor due to his exceptional abilities and deep-seated hatred for the Shen family, becoming the deepest undercover agent planted within the Shen household. At the end of the file, a copy of the old case file from that year regarding the Lin family was attached. Above, my father Shen Qiao's signature was prominently listed. The evidence is irrefutable, so it turns out, my father truly was the one who annihilated his family. No, to be precise, both my father and Zhong Qinian were his enemies, yet the emperor, that lofty sovereign, skillfully directed all the hatred toward our Shen family. He made Chu Heng believe that Shen Qiao was the mastermind. What a clever move to kill with a borrowed knife, hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. I slowly closed the case file, yet felt no ripple of emotion in my heart, because beneath the case file, there was something else lying there, a confession purchased by Lord Qin from an inconspicuous steward at Zhong Qinian's residence. That steward was once Zhong Qinian's trusted confidant. The confession clearly stated that the so-called evidence of collusion with the enemy against the Lin family was entirely fabricated by Zhong Qinian. Jealous of Lin Zhengqing's talent and reputation, he conspired with the then frontier military commander, the Marquis of Anyuan, to devise this vicious scheme, and my father, from beginning to end, was merely a tool pushed into the spotlight, responsible for reviewing and closing the case. He might have had doubts, but under the emperor's pressure and the so-called ironclad evidence, he had no choice. This is the truth, a bloody truth that had been buried for 5 years. I carefully put away that confession. Uncle Qin indeed handles things flawlessly. With this document, I now have leverage to negotiate with Chu Heng, and also a weapon to completely bring down Zhong Qinian. And now, the storm has begun in the imperial court. The censors from the censorate have suddenly submitted a joint memorial, accusing my father, Shen Qiao, of corruption, forming cliques for personal gain, and plotting rebellion. The evidence presented is precisely the account book that Chu Heng tricked out of my hands. The witness is the Minister of Revenue, Zhong Qinian. He stated with conviction that Shen Qiao had repeatedly tried to win him over in an attempt to jointly control the court. The emperor on the dragon throne feigned shock and flew into a rage. He immediately ordered that my father, Shen Qiao, be temporarily dismissed from his post and placed under house arrest, pending investigation. At the same time, he dispatched his most trusted Imperial Guard commander to raid the Prime Minister's residence. For a moment, the capital was shaken. Everyone thought that Prime Minister Shen, who held immense power in the court, was truly about to fall from grace this time. When a wall is about to collapse, everyone gives it a push. Those who once fawned over our Shen family now avoided us like the plague. The entrance to the Prime Minister's residence became deserted and quiet. That day, my brother Shen Lang was imprisoned by the Metropolitan Governor for coercive buying and selling of the royal villa. The Shen family seemed to have truly fallen into a desperate situation, surrounded by enemies on all sides. The day the Imperial Guards raided the Prime Minister's residence, the scene was grand and imposing, led personally by the Imperial Guard commander Li Guang. The entire Prime Minister's residence was tightly surrounded. The servants in the mansion were all terrified, their faces ashen as they knelt on the ground, trembling. My mother and I were invited to the main hall. My mother, Lady Liu, had always been gentle and delicate by nature, and now she was utterly frightened, her beautiful face pale with fear. Clutching my hand tightly, I patted the back of her hand reassuringly, signaling her to stay calm. Chu Heng stood beside Li Guang, watching everything with an expressionless face. His gaze was like a blade tempered in ice, cold and devoid of any warmth. He looked at the once familiar pavilions and towers, at the panicked servants, at me and my mother. With not a trace of pity in his eyes, only the satisfaction of vengeance fulfilled. So satisfying, so satisfying. The Shun family is finally going to fall. See, that old fox Shun Yaro is under house arrest, the bully Shun Lang is locked up, and now it's this mother and daughter's turn. Well done, Chu Lang. Your great revenge is finally about to be avenged. Li Guang was a rough man, and with the emperor's authorization, he naturally showed no courtesy. He sat imposingly in the main seat, slammed a confiscation order on the table, and said sternly, by the emperor's oral decree, the prime minister's residence is to be thoroughly investigated, all property is to be sealed, and no one is allowed to take even a needle or a thread. Guards, search the place. At his command, the fierce imperial guards charged in and began ransacking the place. The sounds of shattering porcelain, toppling furniture, and the wails of women filled the air without end. The entire prime minister's residence was thrown into utter chaos. My mother was so frightened that she closed her eyes, her body trembling even more violently, yet I only watched coldly, watching it all unfold. Chu Heng's gaze fell upon me. He probably wanted to see fear, despair, and collapse on my face. But he was disappointed. There was no expression on my face, as calm as a stagnant pool of water. His brows furrowed slightly. Why isn't she afraid at all? Could she be scared out of her wits? That must be it. She's usually so arrogant and domineering. Now she knows fear. She's just a useless fool. What reaction could she have? Host, don't bother with her. Hurry and find the real ledger and treasury. Chu Heng no longer looked at me and instead said to Li Guang, Commander Li, according to the intelligence, Shun Qiao's real ledger and the embezzled gold and silver are hidden in a secret chamber. That chamber is located in his study. Oh, Li Guang became interested. Lead the way. Chu Heng led them straight to my father's study. Then, in front of everyone, he skillfully rotated the celadon vase. The door of the secret room opened with a creak. Everyone gasped in shock. Even in Li Guang's eyes, a greedy glint appeared. They rushed in, overjoyed at the thought of finding mountains of gold and silver treasures, along with overwhelming evidence of my father's crimes. However, the room was completely empty, not even a piece of paper, let alone gold or silver, clean. As if it had been licked, Li Guang's face instantly darkened. He turned around abruptly, staring intently at Chu Heng. Where is it? Chu Heng was also dumbfounded. He stared in disbelief at the empty secret chamber before him, the color draining from his face in an instant. How could this be? Where is the thing? He had clearly seen with his own eyes that this place was piled high with account books and case files. What's going on? Where are the things? Impossible. The secret room is right here. Were we deceived? It's Shun Qiao. It must be that old fox Shun Qiao who moved the items in advance. Host, think quickly. Where would he have moved the items to? Chu Heng's mind went completely blank. He couldn't figure it out. The entire Shun residence was already under the control of the Imperial Guards, so how did Shun Qiao manage to transport so many things right under his nose without anyone noticing? Chu Heng, Li Guang roared, how dare you make a fool of me? I didn't. Chu Heng hurriedly defended himself. The item must still be in the mansion. There must be another hidden chamber. All right, Li Guang gritted his teeth. Then find it for me. If you can't find it today, you'll have to present your head to the emperor. Thus, the entire prime minister's residence was turned upside down, walls were knocked open, floor tiles were pried up, and even the pond in the rear garden was drained of water. But in the end, they still found nothing. Li Guang's patience had finally run out. He grabbed Chu Heng by the collar and snarled, You brat, I think you're in cahoots with Shun Qiao. Guards, tie him up and lock him in the same cell as Shun Qiao. Chu Heng had no way to defend himself and was roughly restrained with his hands behind his back by 2 Imperial guards before being taken away. As he passed by me, he stared at me intently, his eyes filled with confusion and inquiry. He couldn't figure out what had gone wrong, and I just quietly looked back at him, the corner of my mouth curling into a barely noticeable smile. Chu Heng, this is only the first step. I am the one who holds the cards in this game. The downfall of the Shun family became the biggest news in the capital. Yet another piece of news was drowned out in this massive turmoil, barely noticeable. The Dai gambling house, which had been stormed by Shun Lang a few days ago, was indeed taken over. However, the buyer was not Shen Lang, but Zhong Yong. The only son of Minister of Revenue Zhong Qinian, Zhong Yong renovated the Delight Mansion, turning it into the most luxurious cockfighting arena in the entire capital. Naming it the Golden Rooster Hall, on its opening day, it attracted all the city's dandies to attend, making it the talk of the town. No one knew that the deed to the Delight Mansion had been secretly swapped out by me with a forged deed to a royal villa on the very day Shen Lang caused the uproar. The manager of the Delight Mansion, under Shen Lang's intimidation and the hefty bribe I promised, had long since taken the silver notes and fled far away, and Zhong Yong, having spent a great deal of money, actually bought an abandoned royal villa. The transfer document stamped with the seal of the capital governor was a forgery, crafted at great expense by the best counterfeiter in the capital. It was flawlessly done. The Zhong family had already stepped into the first trap I had carefully laid for them. The Prime Minister's residence was sealed, my father and Chu Heng were imprisoned, and my brother was thrown into jail. My mother and I were driven out of the Prime Minister's residence and temporarily settled in a remote small courtyard. In the blink of an eye, I fell from the clouds into the mud, becoming the laughingstock of the entire capital. Those noble ladies who used to flatter me now point fingers at me whenever we meet, their faces full of disdain and schadenfreude. Look, that's Shen Qingqing. She used to be so imposing, but now she's not even as good as a maid in our household. I heard her father is going to be beheaded, and she'll be sent to the Jiaofangxi from now on. Serves her right. Who told their family to be so arrogant before? I told my mother that we couldn't just sit around and eat through our savings. I needed to go out and find some work. My mother cried and hugged me, saying she was sorry for not raising me well and letting me suffer. I comforted her for a long time, then changed into a simple cotton outfit and walked out of the house. I didn't go looking for any work. Instead, I went to the newly opened Golden Rooster Inn in the southern part of the city. The Golden Rooster Hall was bustling with noise and filled with a foul atmosphere. Countless dandies surrounded the cockfighting ring, shouting themselves hoarse in support. Zhong Yong, dressed in a flashy red brocade robe, was embracing two beautiful women, his face flushed with excitement as he greeted guests. I didn't go in. Just stood quietly at the entrance and watched for a while. Then, I turned around and went to another place, the office of the governor of the capital. I didn't use the main entrance but went around to the back door and presented a token. It was given to me by Uncle Qin, a contact token for the Shen family's intelligence network. Soon, a man who looked like a secretary led me inside. The one who received me was the capital prefect, Lord Wang, a middle-aged man who appeared very shrewd. He was promoted by my father and could be considered a member of the Shen family. But I know, these people in official circles have no eternal loyalty, only eternal interests. Miss Shen, what an honor to have you grace us with your presence. I apologize for not welcoming you properly, Lord Wang said with a forced smile. With the Shen family fallen, he naturally no longer showed me the same respect as before. Without another word, I placed something directly on his desk. It was an account book. Inside, it clearly recorded how much bribery Lord Wang had accepted over the years through various means, with the largest sum coming from Dei Workshop. Lord Wang's face instantly changed. He looked at that account book as if he had seen some kind of death warrant. What do you mean by this? Nothing much, I said calmly. I just want to make a deal with Lord Wang. Although my father has fallen, a starved camel is still bigger than a horse. Whether the Shen family can make a comeback remains to be seen. But Lord Wang, your future is now held in the balance by this account book. Lord Wang's forehead was beaded with fine sweat. He stared at me intently, the shrewdness in his eyes replaced by fear. What do you want? It's very simple. I smiled and pushed another petition in front of him. I want to accuse Zhong Yong, the son of the Minister of Revenue, of bullying the market and seizing civilian property. I have prepared both the witnesses and the evidence for you. You just need to handle it impartially. Lord Wang looked at the petition, then at the account book, his expression shifting uncertainly. Finally, he gritted his teeth, as if making a firm decision. Very well, I, the official, will stand up for you. He knew he had no choice. Once you've boarded the Shen family's pirate ship, don't think you can easily get off. Either join me in dragging the Zhong family down with us, and fight for a slim chance of survival, or face ruin right now, with no place to be buried in death. He is a clever man and knows what choice to make. The capital prefect acted swiftly. Early the next morning, while Jongyong was still lost in sweet dreams in the tender embrace of the Golden Rooster Inn, he was dragged out of bed by officials who had broken down the door and taken directly to the capital prefect's office. The charges were forging land deeds and forcibly occupying a royal villa. The news caused an uproar throughout the capital. No one expected the plot to twist so quickly. One day, people were laughing at the Shen family's misfortune, and the next, the fire had spread to the Zhong family. Upon hearing the news, Zhong Qinian, the Minister of Revenue, nearly spat out a mouthful of blood in shock. He immediately rushed to the Jingzhou Yin's office, hoping to get his precious son out, but this time, Lord Wang was resolute. He compared the forged land deed with the genuine one of the royal villa, and the evidence was irrefutable, leaving no room for denial. Occupying a royal villa by force was a serious crime. Even if Zhong Qinian was the Minister of Revenue, he couldn't protect him. Zhong Qinian was so furious he was hopping mad, yet there was nothing he could do about it. He could only watch helplessly as his only son was thrown into prison and locked up together with Shen Lang. It said that as soon as Shen Lang saw Jongyong, without saying a word, he rushed over and gave him a thorough beating. He beat Jongyong until his face was bruised and swollen, crying out for his parents in pain. The reason is, your father harmed my father, so I'll beat his son. It's only right and proper. The jailers, having received instructions from Lord Wang, all turned a blind eye. The Zhong family was thrown into complete chaos, and I, amidst this turmoil, began to set my next plan in motion. I have found Uncle Qin. I handed over to him all the land deeds and silver notes I had taken from the secret chamber. Uncle Qin, I want you to use this money to do 3 things. First, buy out all the rice shops, cloth stores, and medicine shops in the capital that are on the verge of bankruptcy. Only acquire the storefronts, not the staff. Then, replace them with our own people. Second, in the name of our Shen family, set up porridge kitchens outside the city to provide relief to the disaster victims. Give out as much porridge as there are victims. Don't be afraid to spend money. Third, contact those officials who once received favors from my father or were protected by his methods. Tell them the Shen family hasn't fallen yet. If they want to keep their official positions secure, they'll know what to do. Uncle Qin looked at me, his eyes filled with shock and admiration. He never expected that the young lady he had watched grow up, the one everyone considered a good-for-nothing, would possess such boldness and cunning. He didn't ask anything, just nodded heavily. Young lady, rest assured, this old servant will certainly handle it properly. Thus, in the following days, a very strange phenomenon appeared in the capital. On one hand, the once powerful Prime Minister's residence collapsed, causing a citywide uproar. On the other hand, the Shen family's business was quietly expanding. Countless shops on the verge of bankruptcy changed ownership overnight, then began selling rice, grain, and cloth to the common people at extremely low prices. Outside the city, the porridge kitchens were crowded from morning till night. Countless displaced disaster victims received life-saving food and were deeply grateful to the Shen family. For a time, the saying, although the Prime Minister Shen is a treacherous official, the Shen family are great benefactors, began to circulate among the common people. The common people are the most pragmatic. Whoever gives them food to eat, they will speak well of. The direction of public opinion began to subtly shift, almost imperceptibly, and within the imperial court, undercurrents also started to stir. Those officials who had been suppressed or supported by my father had mixed feelings upon receiving the message from Uncle Qin. Some of the timid ones still chose to play it safe and protect themselves, but others, either ambitious or genuinely grateful for my father's kindness, began to secretly conspire, preparing to backstab Zhong Qinian, my father's mortal enemy, dealing him a fatal blow at the critical moment. An invisible net, with me at its center, quietly began to spread. On the other end of the web is the lofty imperial power, and there, in the prison of the Dali Temple, is my dear husband, Chu Heng, confused, furious, yet unable to stop questioning his own life. The prison of the Dali Temple, this is the darkest and dampest place in the entire Great Jew, year-round without seeing the light of day. The air was thick with the smell of blood and decay. My father, Shen Qiao, was locked alone in a prison cell. He wore a prisoner's uniform, his hair slightly disheveled, but his back remained ramrod straight. He sat cross-legged on a pile of straw, meditating with his eyes closed. As if he were not in a dungeon but in his own study, Chu Heng was locked up opposite him. These past few days, he had been staring relentlessly at Shen Qiao, trying to detect even the slightest hint of panic on that old fox's face. But he was disappointed. Shen Qiao was eerily calm. Finally, Chu Heng couldn't hold back any longer. "You knew all along, didn't you?" His voice was hoarse, tinged with a hint of resentment. "You knew who I was all along, and what I intended to do. That's why you moved everything in advance, deliberately making me come up empty-handed." Shen Qiao didn't even open his eyes, replying indifferently, "I don't know what you're talking about. You're still pretending." Chu Heng roared furiously, "Shen Qiao, you treacherous villain. You murdered all 137 members of my Lin family, and now you still pretend to be innocent. Do you think hiding the evidence will save you from death? Let me tell you, it's useless. Even without the ledger, just based on your factionalism and corruption, and the chaos you've brought to the court, the emperor will never let you off." At the mention of the words Lin family, Shen Qiao's eyelashes finally trembled slightly. He slowly opened his eyes, and for the first time, a ripple of emotion stirred in those deep, ancient well-like pupils. "The Lin family. So, you are Lin Zhengqing's son." His voice carried a hint of emotion, and a trace of guilt, at this point. "I might as well tell you the truth." Shen Qiao looked at him and said slowly, "Regarding the Lin family's case back then, I do feel guilty, but I was not the mastermind. Don't even think about making excuses." Chu Heng simply didn't believe it. "With both witnesses and material evidence present, it was you who personally convicted my Lin family." "Witnesses, material evidence?" Shen Qiao let out a cold laugh. "Are you referring to those so-called evidences provided by Zhong Qinian, Lin Yang? You're a clever person. Think carefully. With your father's character, would he collude with the enemy and betray the nation? With my status in the court, if I truly wanted to bring him down, would I need to resort to such clumsy methods?" Chu Heng was stunned. These questions were not ones he hadn't considered. It was just that national and personal grievances had clouded his judgment, causing him to selectively overlook these doubts. He only believed what he was willing to believe. "Host, don't listen to his nonsense. He's trying to shake your resolve, right? Don't believe a single word from this treacherous official. He just wants to drag Minister Zhong down with him. Hold on. Once the emperor issues the decree, everything will be settled." The barrage of comments continued to frantically brainwash him. Shen Qiao looked at his struggling expression and let out a soft sigh. "I know, you won't believe me, but soon, you will know the truth. You're a good kid. It's just a pity that you've been used as a weapon without even realizing it." After saying this, he closed his eyes again and never uttered another word. Chu Heng stood frozen in place, his heart roiling with turbulent waves. Shen Qiao's words were like a stone thrown into his once calm heart, stirring up countless ripples. He couldn't help but start to recall all the events of the past few days: an empty secret chamber, Shen Qingqing's strange behavior, Zhong Yang's sudden arrest, and those eerie rumors in the capital. All of this felt unusual. He felt as if he had fallen into a vast net, and the one who wove the net did not seem to be Shen Qiao. Then who was it? A name he had long overlooked, a figure he had labeled as a pretty but useless beauty, gradually became clear in his mind: Shen Qingqing, impossible. He immediately dismissed the thought. That woman, foolish and spoiled, knew nothing except how to act coy and spend money. How could she possibly be so cunning? But if it wasn't her, then who could it be? Just as Chu Heng was in a state of turmoil, the cell door creaked open with a groan. A jailer walked in, carrying a food box in his hand. "Prime Minister Shen, young Master Chu, someone has come to visit." Chu Heng looked up, and when he saw the visitor, his pupils abruptly contracted. "The person who has come is none other than me. I am still dressed in simple cotton clothes, and though my face is free of makeup, it carries a faint smile." I placed the food box on the ground, took out the dishes inside, and arranged them one by one. "Father, husband, I've come to see you." My voice was so light and cheerful, as if we weren't in a prison cell, but having a picnic in our own courtyard. "Qingqing, My father looked at me, a flicker of surprise in his eyes, but more than that. There was relief and understanding. He had probably guessed that everything that had happened outside was my doing, and Chu Hung was looking at me with an extremely complicated expression. There was shock, doubt, and a hint of fear that even he himself hadn't noticed. He couldn't see through me at all. The woman before him, his wife of 3 years whom he had spent day and night with, seemed like a completely different person. Why is she here? What is she here for? Must be here to beg for mercy. Ha, how naive. Host, be careful. This woman is acting very strange today. I ignored Chu Hung and simply handed a bowl of hot soup to my father. Father, have something warm to drink first. It's cold and damp here, which is bad for your legs. My father, in his early years, fought on the battlefield and ended up with a pair of old, aching legs. My father took the bowl of soup, looked at me deeply, said nothing, and just silently began to drink. Then, I turned to Chu Hung. I also ladled a bowl of soup and handed it to him. Husband, you should have some too. Chu Hung did not take it, just stared at me intently. It was you, wasn't it? He asked. The items in the secret room, you moved them. Zhongyang's imprisonment, you orchestrated it, and all those rumors outside. They were all your doing. He wasn't asking, but stating a fact he couldn't believe. I smiled, neither confirming nor denying. Husband, what are you talking about? I don't understand. I still wore that innocent and clueless expression. Stop pretending. Chu Hung's emotions were a bit agitated. Shen Qingqing, who exactly are you? Why are you doing this? Why am I doing this? The smile on my face finally turned cold. I set down the soup bowl, stood up, and looked down at him from above. Chu Hung, or should I say, Lin Yang, that's a question I should be asking you. You've been lurking by my side for 3 years, pretending to care. All for today, to wipe out our Shen family completely, haven't you? Now, I've only done what I had to do to protect my family. What right do you have to question me? My voice wasn't loud, but every word struck at the heart. Chu Hung's face instantly turned deathly pale. You know my identity. She knows. How could she know? Oh no, host, your identity has been exposed. Who told her? Shen Qiao. No, Shen Qiao just found out too. The barrage went completely wild. Golden characters flooding down like a waterfall. Not only do I know who you are, I also know that you're a pitiful pawn being used by others. I took the confession obtained from Lord Qin out of my sleeve and threw it in front of him. See for yourself. See who the real murderer of your family is. See how the emperor you serve used you as a blade to deal with the minister he truly feared. Chu Hung trembled all over, his hands shaking as he picked up the confession. The more he read, the paler his face became.
May your majesty see with discerning eyes and grant Prime Minister Shen the justice he deserves. The roar of voices surged like a tidal wave, echoing through the heavens. Public opinion, at times, is a weapon more powerful than swords, especially in this dynasty, which prides itself on benevolent governance. The emperor looked at the dense, dark crowd outside the palace gates, listening to the deafening roar of voices. And his face turned completely dark. He knew he had lost utterly and completely. Not only had he failed to bring down Shen Qiao, but he had instead allowed him and the Shen family to gain unprecedented prestige. He gripped the armrest of the dragon throne so tightly that his knuckles turned white from the force. After a long while, he finally forced out a few words through gritted teeth. By the emperor's decree, Zhong Qinian and the Marquis of Anyuan are to be thrown into the imperial prison, and their crimes thoroughly investigated. Re-examine the Lin family's old case. As for Minister Shen, he paused, his voice filled with reluctance, is a pillar of the state. I was momentarily blinded by treacherous individuals and nearly wronged a loyal minister. Restore him to his official position immediately and reward him with 10,000 taels of gold as a gesture of consolation. The gavel fell. This court turmoil that lasted for more than half a month finally ended with the complete victory of our Shen family. 3 days later, the seals on the Prime Minister's residence were torn off, and the main gate reopened. My father was reinstated to his official position, even more powerful and influential than before. My brother Shen Lang was acquitted and released, swaggering out of the capital's prison, followed by a bruised and battered Zhong Yong. The Zhong family fell from power, with Zhong Qinian and the Marquis of Anyuan sentenced to immediate execution, and all their family property confiscated. The old case of the Lin family was overturned and justice was served. The emperor issued a decree posthumously honoring Lin Zhengqing as Duke of Literary Loyalty and allocated funds from the national treasury to build a memorial hall for the Lin family. Our Shun family not only remained standing but, after this purification, became known among the court officials and the common people of the capital as great loyal subjects and great benefactors. My father remains the powerful prime minister who dominates the court. But my brother seems like a changed person. He no longer engaged in cockfighting or dog racing, nor did he stir up trouble. Instead, he began to follow my father, learning to handle government affairs, and even took the initiative to volunteer to manage the newly acquired shops in the southern part of the city. He said he wanted to do something practical for the Shun family. Everything had settled into place, except for me and Chu Heng. He did not return to the prime minister's residence, but instead moved into the newly built Lin mansion bestowed upon him by the emperor. He resumed his identity as Lin Yang. The grievances of the Lin family were redressed, and he became a tragic hero whom everyone in the capital pitied. Countless high-ranking officials and noble ladies wished to marry their daughters to him as his second wife. Everyone assumed that his connection with me, the daughter of a treacherous minister, had already come to an end. I did not go to find him. Nor did he come to find me. We were like two lines that had once intersected, drifting further and further apart after a brief meeting, until a day half a month later, I personally went to the Lin residence. I brought two things with me. One was a divorce agreement signed with my name. The other is the complete case file of the old Lin family incident, along with a detailed confession written in my father's own hand. Lin Yang met me in the study. He had lost a lot of weight and had become much more silent. Those peach blossom eyes, once full of deep affection and later brimming with hatred, now held nothing but a hollow, lifeless emptiness. We sat in silence for a long time. In the end, I was the first to speak. I pushed the two items toward him. Lin Yang, these are the things you asked for. He looked at the divorce agreement, then at the case file, his fingertips trembling slightly. I've signed the divorce agreement. From now on, you and I are free to marry others, with no ties between us. Your Lin family's vengeance has been served. This case file was given to me by my father to pass on to you. It contains all the details of the old case, including the reason why he signed the document despite knowing something was amiss. He said he owed the Lin family the truth. Lin Yang said nothing, only picked up the case file and began turning the pages one by one. My father's confession made it very clear. Back then, the emperor had long wanted to deal with Lin Zhengqing, but lacked a pretext. Zhong Qinyan's false accusation provided him with the perfect opportunity. The emperor summoned my father in private and used the military pay and safety of the 300,000 soldiers in the northern border to threaten him. If he doesn't sign to close the case, the emperor will cut off the military provisions to the northern border, citing empty state coffers as the reason. By then, the frontier will fall, and the people will suffer. On one side, there are the lives of over 100 members of the Lin family. On the other, the safety of hundreds of thousands of soldiers and civilians at the border. My father chose the latter. He used the blood of the Lin family and my own infamy to buy 10 years of peace for the northern border. Lin Yang trembled all over, his eyes reddening. He finally realized he had hated the wrong person. His true enemy was never Shen Qiao, but rather, the emperor, who sat high above, treating human lives as worthless grass. The path, you choose it yourself. I stood up, looking down at him from above, my voice devoid of any emotion. You can take this divorce paper. Marry a noble lady who truly aids your political career. Continue being a loyal minister and fine general. Serve the enemy who killed your father, and enjoy your wealth and status. Or, I paused, lowering my voice even further, or, tear it up, stay, and be my husband, Shen Qingqing's, and become the son-in-law of the treacherous minister Shen Qiao. Together, let's replace the person sitting high up on that position with someone else. I looked at him, completely handing over the choice to him. Lin Yang stared at me intently, the lifelessness in his eyes replaced by shock and disbelief. He probably didn't expect me to say such treasonous words, even less did he expect that I would give him such a choice. Holy shit, is the female lead rebelling? Thrilling, so thrilling. This is what you call the style of a villainous family. Host, choose her, stick with the female lead and you'll feast, stick with the dog emperor and it's certain death. The barrage was even more excited than he was. I didn't rush him, just waited quietly. I knew this was a difficult decision. It means he must abandon everything he had just gained, forsake the cleared reputation after vindication, and stand once again in opposition to the emperor. Even to align with the treacherous officials he once despised the most. The study fell into a deathly silence, only the candle flame crackled softly. A long, long time. Lin Yang slowly raised his hand, reaching toward the 2 documents on the table. His fingertips lingered for a long while on the divorce agreement. Then, they shifted to the file that recorded the deep-seated blood feud. Finally, he lifted his head and looked at me deeply, for the first time. A glimmer of light rekindled in those hollow, peach blossom eyes. It was the light of ambition and desire. He picked up the divorce agreement and, right in front of me, tore it into pieces, bit by bit. Then, he stood up, walked over to me, took my hand, and knelt on one knee, just like 3 years ago, when he married into the Shen family and paid his respects to me. Only this time, there was no feigned affection in his eyes, nor hidden resentment, only complete surrender and determination. My dear Qingqing, I choose you. He lifted his head, his gaze burning as he looked at me, speaking word by word. From this day forward, I, Chu Heng, am no longer Lin Yang of the Lin family, but only your husband, Shen Qingqing's. My life, everything I have, belongs to you. I will do whatever you say. I looked at him. At the fire rekindled in his eyes, and finally, a genuine smile spread across my face. I helped him up and whispered softly in his ear. Okay, from today on, we are allies, my dear husband. Welcome to our side, the whole family of villains. Outside the window, the night was deep. The sky over the capital is about to change soon. My husband, my villainous father, and my tyrant brother will personally push this decaying dynasty into the abyss. Then, we will build a new world that belongs to us. As for those golden bullet comments, I'm shipping it, I'm shipping it. This is truly a power couple, villain couple. Lock them in forever. So, are we? The villain's system now seems pretty exciting too. Watching those jubilant bullet comments, the smile on my lips deepened. It seems I've not only gained a loyal husband but also a group of allies who thrive on chaos. This game of chess is getting more and more interesting.